And we are live. PGP podcast here, ready to rock and roll and learn from each other because you know what? You know what that is, Dr. Moreno? You know what that is? That's the school year for 24-25, and it's just around the corner. Hey, Josh Tovar, principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland ISD, Garland, USA, ready to rock and roll and learn from each other. Learn from each other because that's what it's all about. The Puras Ganas podcast is about learning from each other, the qualities, the ideas, because what do we do? The best in education, we beg, borrow, and steal. But you know what? We need an update. We need an update from somebody that I know right here, right next to me. Last week's episode, you saw that she was raining cats and dogs and rhinoceroses and weasels and everything in H-Town. Give us an update, Dr. Moreno. What's happening in
Oh my God. I think everybody now has power in Houston, Texas, H-Town in the house. But let me tell you, Josh, I now have mold in my house. So there you go. I mean, when it's all great and dandy and ready to kind of go to the next thing, there's always something that always, kind of gets in the middle. That's what principals do, right? There's always something coming up every day, right? And so it's important for us to kind of pivot, turn, do what we need to do. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I am pivoting, I'm turning, and somehow my insurance is going to save me because, oh my God, I need a new roof now.
Hombre, qué bárbara. Hey, when it rains, it pours, but we know you'll be okay. The good thing is that you're safe. The good thing is that nothing drastic happened, even though the new roof, it does cost financially. But all of us as educators, we don't want to have that starting the 24-25 school year. That's part of the things that when we talk to our team members about not bringing in the outside to the campus, it happens. Life happens. And so we got to be able to learn how to cope with it. That's why you all need a PLN, professional learning network. You need to reach out to other individuals because you're not alone. You choose to be alone. If you go on Educate X and you get in connection with other educators, you know what? They've gone through stuff like this. Dr. Moreno, that's how we connected. Our guest coming up, the awesome Texas Principal of the Year last year, awesome speaker at NASSP. We'll get to him right now, Mr. David Arencibia. We'll get to him right now, but it's about making sure we make those connections with each other. So if you're not on social media, you're still renting your movies at Blockbuster. You're still buying your pants at Montgomery Awards. So put down the beta tape, get your laser disc movie, put it to the side, and make sure you get on Educator X. What do you think about that, Dr. Moreno?
You know what? It's going to be amazing. It's going to be an amazing show because you know what? I've heard only great things about our guest today. And I just can't wait to kind of dig deep and find out what exactly we can do to get started with this new school year. Oh my God, Josh, I think it's like 2 weeks. I know some friends that are already working. Like they're already on the clock. Is that you too? Holy moly. I thought, everybody started tomorrow, but no, it was last week for many of y'all. Shoot.
Oh, yeah.
The summer is getting shorter and shorter, let me tell you.
Well, that's why we have awesome people here on the PGP podcast, so we could beg, borrow, and steal ideas. And without further ado, my man, mi compadre, mi amigo del estado de Texas, the NASSP second, because Donna's a great person, but my man right here was the #1 Texas Principal of the Year last year, runner-up across the country, David Arencibia. Thank you and welcome for being here. Former Crawley, what is it, Crawley?
Colleyville.
Colleyville. What's the mascot?
Colts, Colleyville Colts.
Colts. Yeah. My bad. I should have done my research, but I love everything that you do. That's how I followed this guy because you know what? I started stealing from that guy. What is he doing on social media? What is he doing out there? Because that's how he promotes the school culture, and we'll get to that right now. Welcome to the show, David. How are you doing?
Man, I'm excited. I'm doing great. A little hoarse in the voice, but I'll be doing all right. Like you said, we just got back from Nashville, Tennessee at the NASSP conference, United, and so speaking and hanging out with a lot of great friends, such as yourself, Josh, and just some fantastic people that I lost my voice. And I had a little too good of a time, and I say that but I had a fantastic time, but I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here, Josh. Thank you for having me. And Dr. Moreno, it's my absolute pleasure to meet you. I've heard so many great things about you. I can't wait to get jumped in with this right here. This is going to be great.
Hey, and since this is a live thing, with nothing pre-recorded, I think, and we don't have it scheduled kind of to talk about. Tell people about NASSP. Tell them about what the positiveness about becoming a member of that, because we know we always need to promote both TASSP, which is your local chapter, and the national chapter. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
Yeah, Josh, and what a great way to segue and kick off, because absolutely, for every administrator out there, if you're not plugged into your state organization, that is one of the first things that I definitely want to encourage you to do. And if you're an administrator already and you're already plugged in, it's about getting that future generation jumped in and plugged in as well. Because it is so important, the work that we do, not only at the local level, but of course expanded out throughout the state and then at the national level. So that's the very next thing I would definitely encourage everyone to do. So, I'm a part of TASSP, Texas Association of Secondary School Principals, an absolutely fantastic organization. That's right, 3 of us, right? That has going strong right now in this podcast. But beyond that, the NASSP, the national level, they do some fantastic work when it comes to advocacy, when it comes to promoting the positive voice that the education continues to need now more than ever out there. So all that to say, Josh, it's extremely important that we're plugged in, connected, networking with fellow administrators, fellow colleagues, seeing what's going on out there in the world. That way we can bring back into our lives, into our teams, our campuses, and sharing the positive words and the positive things happening in education.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Did you meet new friends?
Always.
Right. That's
Absolutely.
the beauty of all of this, right? Is meeting new friends and people out there and who you can continue to connect with. And with social media, oh my God, like how easy is that, right? As far as continuing to communicate and talk to them and have that sounding board, right? Someone you can talk to who can help you. So awesome. I missed NASSP this year. But I'm going to have to go next year. But I did go to TASP. I did go that because that is one of my favorite places to go every year. And I always meet new friends. And so, you know what? Next time, Josh, you have to remind me.
I got you for sure. We'll be together and we'll go break some more bread, doing all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Without further ado, let's talk and let's be real here. What do I mean by that? Let's learn about this guy known as David. David, please tell the audience about yourself. Let them know about your tenure in education. Let them know the different roles that you've had in education. And also, out of all those roles that you've served, which one has been your favorite and why?
So that last question, that's going to be tough. Favorite and why? But let me back up and I guess start there from the jump, from the beginning. So I am David Arencibia. I was the proud principal at Colleyville Middle School as of last few weeks ago. So I am full time now, spreading that positive message I was just mentioning there. Get to do that all over the country, and I'm so excited about that because I truly believe our colleagues, our friends, our teams, and our kids need that positive message now more than ever when it comes to education. So that's the current. But if you rewind right there, I actually started as a Spanish teacher in high school and coaching football and baseball in the great state of Texas here at Kaufman High School. I'm originally from California, and I was born and raised in Southern California. I actually moved all up and down the coast and Northern California, so all over California, really. And then from there, I needed a change. So I figured, 1,650 miles away from home was pretty far enough. And that's where I followed my brother to college, which is a story all into itself in Arkansas. And from there, I'm fortunate and very blessed to be bilingual, raising a bilingual home. And yep, absolutely, Maddie. And with that came some wonderful opportunity in the sense of when I got to college, they said, hey, if you take these couple Spanish classes and you make a B or better, and we'll give you 12 hours of credit. free. And this was a private college university, fantastic one, Harding University. And here's the deal: a street kid like me, and I was actually living alone as a senior in high school. Again, a whole nother story in itself. I was like, yeah, absolutely. What I did know is I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be a coach. So from Arkansas is where I met my lovely girlfriend at the time, ended up becoming my fiance, now my wife of 23 years. And we said, you know what, where are we going to be able to live out this dream of wanting to teach and coach? And of course, the 3 states that came up were California, back home in California, Texas, and Florida. And my wife was like, you know what, Texas is just south of us. And my friends were like, Texas is, where it's at. And I believed them. And that's where I ended up in Texas, coaching high school football and baseball. After that, fast forward, Spanish teacher at another high school campus where I was very fortunate to be surrounded by fantastic leaders in so many capacities. I ended up being a department chair at a very young age. I was 23 years old. What? At a very veteran staff at Irving MacArthur High School in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And our principal at the time, she saw something in me, and she was like, hey, you can take this, you can do this. She didn't know my age, interestingly enough. And I knew that because a few years later, she was encouraging me to be an administrator. She's like, David, you got some leadership abilities. You really need to consider becoming a principal. She's like, how old are you? At that time, I had just turned 25, and she just was floored. So a department chair. And then after that, jumped into administration. And I've been in secondary my entire professional career for 23 years. And that's how long I've been doing it. Bounced around a little bit more in the Dallas-Fort Worth area here in North Texas. I was an athletic coordinator for a few years. A fantastic story in itself. Many, many stories there. And then administration multiple times. And then just recently 8 years as the principal at an elite, fantastic school that is Colleyville Middle School. So that's probably way more than you wanted, but that's my journey, Josh. 23 years in education, and it's been absolutely fantastic.
And you know what? I think it's crucial that our audience. My focal point is making sure that it's a new audience, because they need to hear what's available. Because sometimes you just want to enter the classroom, but you don't know about all the jobs that you served and all the possibilities that are out there. Because people have this paradigm thinking that there's only a job: history, science. No, you could branch out to so many different fields in public education overall, making sure that you serve our community, whatever your community is, pre-K all the way to the master's level courses. You can serve a different population because we're nation builders, as we learned about that at NASSP. Before I hand it over there to Dr. Moreno, a big shout out to Dot McKeever, who is part of the Fantastic Four, promoting, always ensuring that we're together with Sean Hurt, Shika Houston, Tammy Taylor, and Jefe, Principal Cafele. And without further ado, we got Shika Houston in the house. She's been advertising. I think she's at a conference right now, the Black Educators Rock Conference right there. And the principal liner's note, Sean Gaylor. Sean, right there, that cat right there, that would be a great guest right there to have on your podcast. Sean Gaylor. He's a great guy. Just moved to a brand new school. He's been doing his thing on a podcast, and it's all tied into music, David. He does such a fabulous job of tying in leadership to music. He has a book called The Pepper Effect, and he combines it all together. And he has been slacking because he promised me 3 Led Zeppelin shows with leadership. I'm just calling you out, Sean Gaylor, on my podcast. Just calling you out.
I was going to say, are you calling him out?
This is an active show right there. Hey, Central Hicks, we met him at TASSP. We set him at TSSP. We broke bread with him and everybody else. But without further ado, Dr. Moreno.
Hey, David. So you know what? That's a fantastic story. And did you say Kaufman High School?
Yeah, Kaufman High School for a year.
Oh, wow. I was like, I even wrote that down. I said, I have to clarify that. I had an uncle who lived in Kaufman a long time. It was a small, itty-bitty town, right?
It was back then, and it continues to grow. But yeah, it's cool. First stop.
Well, awesome, awesome. A nice way to kind of start off. And then now you are, look at you, Principal of the Year. That is so amazing. I tried many, many times to get that title, and I didn't quite make it. But you know what? I am so proud of you, and congrats one more time. I just want to make sure I give you a shout out for that. But you mentioned something when you were talking, and you said you always wanted to be an educator, right? It's you don't find that half the time, right? When people say, I want to be an attorney, to be honest with you, and I didn't even major in that, right? So my question to you is, so if you desired to be an educator at such a young age, who motivated you, or who kind of led you to become this educator?
Yeah, that's a great one. And so I always, when I say always, when I was a teenager, particular in high school, that's when I started to develop that passion for wanting to be with uh, people that were at that same age, teenager. I remember vividly, still to this day, a moment I had in my mind. I was like, you know what? I want to work with people this age, with my age right now, for in the future. So I knew that to answer your question, watching some of my coaches, my football coaches in action, and some of the leadership skills that they imparted into all of us, watching them. I had a student body. I was a student body president my senior year, which is kind of a cool little thing. But it was its own separate student body government class, which was really, really neat. We were able to do all kinds of assemblies and just so many things. It was very much student voice, student led at that time, even back then, years and years ago. And it was the teacher that had instilled and motivated so many leadership attributes that I saw firsthand in herself, and then also in the class, just in general, and that I just fed off of. I was just a sponge. So Mrs. Williamson was her name, and she was just an absolute wonderful leader. And she was one of those that very much motivated me in many ways to really to think of education and to teach and to coach. And I had, like I said, some coaches too that are just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that's what really motivated me early on. And I love how Josh, how you also said, going back to your comment, in the sense of, we don't ever know where the road is going to lead us, right? But as long as we have faith and we have love and all the things to keep us motivated and passionate to know that we're walking the path that we're supposed to be walking, things will happen the way they should. And there's this cool little leadership quote that I latched onto years ago, listening to my former superintendent speak, and he would say, you are constantly vying for your next position every single day. You are interviewing for your next position right now.
That's true.
And you just never know what can happen. And that's so true. So, for us, and then for anyone that I may have the honor that you're listening to my voice right now, the things that you're doing right now, they matter. They matter, regardless of where we've been, regardless of where we're going. Everything that we do, I just always encourage people to do it with intentionality, because you never know what the future is going to hold and where your path is going to lead. So I said all that. A lot of things. I'll be quiet
On
now.
the spot. You're on the spot all the time, right? And you know what? You said something, and I'll let you take it over in a second, Josh. But you know what's important? Sometimes educators and all of you out there, I know you can hear me right now. Half the time we don't see the effects, right, that we do every single day in our classrooms. When you're teaching, sometimes you never know what plant you're seeding, what seeds you're planting, right? So that, here you are mentioning this teacher from many, many, many years ago that provided you these leadership skills, and I'm sure, I hope she is out there somewhere where she can kind of see you and say, oh my God, look, he is my student. And because of her, look at where you are. But we don't get to see that half the time, right? And I'm really hoping with social media, right, that we're now kind of seeing more and more of our all these seeds that we planted many, many years ago. We can see what happens then. So I don't know. I was just really excited to hear that you mentioned your teacher's name, because that's my teacher, Miss Cervantes, and God bless her soul. She passed away a couple of years ago, and I went to her funeral. I mean, that's how passionate I was about her, right? And I love her to death.
I love that, Marty, and you're so true. And everything that you're speaking of is exactly what every educator, I believe, right now needs to hear. We matter. Education matters. It is that important right now. And I truly believe that our current generation, for the effects of our future generation, need us now more than ever, because of the seeds that you're talking about that are being planted. So important. And so thank you for lifting that up, because you're so right. And I just hope everyone hears that. This profession matters, and it's powerful.
Most importantly, that we remind each other about that, David. That's a bad thing. We have a lot of beautiful things in our field, but sometimes we forget the humanity amongst ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And amongst ourselves, either at the classroom level and at administrative level, sometimes that P. What was the name of the funny guy, the principal, the P and J?
Jerry Brooks. I know
Jerry
exactly
Brooks.
where you're going. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's sad that in our field, there's a lot of, he calls it peanut butter and jelly, professional jealousy. And because of that, he gives his staff a little bottle of peanut butter and jelly to remind them to not be jealous of somebody else, but to lift
Listen.
up,
Yeah.
learn from people that are doing way better than you. And so it's crucial that us as educators always ensure that we push each other, because it's not an easy gig. It's not an easy gig. But you know what, David, let's peel that onion a little bit back. Let's talk about El Chiquito, the small one. David, how were you as a kid in middle school and high school? How were you as a college kid? Were you a good kid, A, B, A honor roll? Were you a knucklehead like me, a big dummy, always being a drunk and ditching? Hey, we all had a past, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
define us right now. We all had a past. Who were you? And along this, how did your parents influence you to become who you are now?
Woo, that's that's a pretty full question, man. Shoot, that's a episode I can go off on all day. So here's something. I actually speak to this. I'm doing some convocations for some school districts across the country here, and this is actually a piece that I talk about in it when I'm telling part of my story. I am whoever that educator in front of me almost makes me be at that moment. And it not makes me, but that's the wrong word. But let me explain. Let me unpack that a little bit. When I was with educators that showed absolutely zero interest in me, I reciprocated. I showed zero interest in them, and I showed zero interest in their class. Now, when I was with people like I was just talking about Miss Williamson, and I had mentioned Coach Police and some different coaches, and that I had mentioned before, when I was with individuals like that invested their time and attention and their care into me, I reciprocated that back, and that is what matters. And sometimes we miss that, and I know we'll probably talk a little bit about, my book and whatnot, but I talk about that, the standards. You got to have high standards, and that's so important. But the relational piece is so important. So, Josh, I was whatever the individual and the adult and the leader that was in front of me. And I say leader because whether people want to be leaders or not, regardless of the positions that they're at, someone's watching you. And to answer your question, little Davy, that was a Chiquito, right? That's what my family called me, little Davy. Davy was watching you. Whether you wanted to be a leader or not, I'm watching you. And I was going to learn from you, good or bad. And I was going to act accordingly, good or bad. So to answer your question, if I had great people in front of me, I was the best kid. I was your teacher's pet. But if you had no interest in me, I had no interest in you, and you didn't want me in your class. Because I was from the streets. I was born and raised in East LA, Los Angeles. I was living I walked through gang-infested streets. I mean, every single morning I had to take off this red hand-me-down sweatshirt that my mama gave me just so I could stay warm in the morning as I was walking to school. When I was walking in front of a Crip house, so that I wouldn't get jumped. And I was in third, fourth grade. And these kids were like older teenagers, young 20s. They didn't care. That was the reality. And that's the street kid that was like inside of me. So that kid could be whatever you want, whatever you wanted him to be, but it really depended on you as the leader, as the educator, the teacher, the administrator, the coach, whoever was in front of me. You had that option, the choice. So Josh, there it is. Marty, I was whatever you wanted me to be. That was way more than you wanted there too. But I'm telling you, I could go off on that all day long. And then I get in my parents later on. And that's
David, you crack me up. Because you know what? I know some kids just like you, right? I can picture them right now, right? It's what you're talking about is culture, right? It's what how the teacher kind of created her culture in the classroom, that then how you kind of fed off of that, right? Which brings me to your book. You just mentioned that. So your book is called Foundations of an Elite Culture. So you talk about it, right? You talk exactly about what you just mentioned right now, as far as what happens in the classroom, right? So we're going to go a little bit more deep, a couple of chapters here and there. So
Sure.
Just a broad overview. Can you just tell me, how a little bit about your book in a general sense, if you will, and then I want to know how in the world did you write this? I think you have 2 books, right? Or is it one?
It's one.
It's one book. So
Yeah.
I want to know how you did this, because I'm still, and Sean, no, don't criticize me right now. Okay. Please don't do that. I am trying to write a book, right? I've had, over 30 years of experience now, and I can't tell you, I have a publisher ready to publish a book that's not even written. So tell me, how did you have time to do this? Because I need some tips.
So yeah, I love that. And Marty, as you know, we only have time for what we make time for, right? So it was a process. So the only thing that I can encourage you to do, Marty, is just start. And that doesn't have to be like write the whole book tonight or write a chapter tonight. Just begin the small process of the habits of maybe writing, hey, I'm going to just write 10, 15 minutes today. And I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. And then I'm going to do the same thing the next day and the next day. And over time, that compound time will it will expand. And then you're going to find yourself motivated to go well beyond that 10, 15 minutes. And you'll find yourself doing a half hour, 45 minutes, and it's just going to continue. But what I would encourage you to do is just start the process, right? And get into those habits, because it's not easy, because if it was, everyone would be doing it, right? And Marty, you have so much to share. Like you're saying, 30 plus years. I mean, we need to hear what you have and what's in that mind and your experiences. So let me encourage you. And I hope that, if there's ever anything I can do to help you, I hope you reach out, because Josh, like you said, it's about the connections, right? Marty, it's about the connections.
I'm just really big on culture. That, to me, that's huge. If you can't get culture right in your classroom, I mean, you're done, right? You're done for the year. You have to get your culture right. So tell me just an overview. What is your book about? Because guess what? I'm going to have to go and get this book like tomorrow, because I already got Josh's book, which we haven't mentioned that yet. I finally got it in the mail today, so I'm super excited. I'm going to read that, but tell me a little bit about your book. I want to know so that I can get all excited and purchase my copy tomorrow.
Yeah, Marty, I appreciate that. Thank you. So, just like you, we're always wanting to write this book. And I was always thinking it was going to be towards the end of my career. Winning the Texas Principal Year in 22, I started having people ask me, like, David, what is it? What's going on? Then the national platform, being the finalist for a National Principal Year, that's what really gave me a platform. And people really started asking, David, if there's a time to write it, it's now. And I listened. And it took me 2 years, Marty. It took me 2 years. So part of something I haven't mentioned is I'm dyslexic. I'm not as severe as my dad or as my daughter, but I definitely have some components. Writing is not very easy to me, to say the least. So I say 2 years, and I began with my first publisher. There's actually a first publisher when we started that process, and that being a finalist in Washington, D.C., I was able to meet Jimmy Cassis, and he has his book organization, Connect EDD. And then he saw something in me. He's like, David, I really want to work with you. I want to get in, and let's do this together. Well, I gave him my first manuscript. Mighty, I'll tell you what the book's about here in just a second, but I think it's really important that people hear this background. I gave him my book, and he saw it, and he knew what I knew, and I could only use about 10 to 15% of what I had written. So back to the process of what I was telling you, every day, on the weekends, during the holidays, I just made it a habit. I was going to write. And 2 years later, here we go. And now it was the number one new release on Amazon for over a week, which was just absolute blessing in itself. So what in the world is elite culture? During that time, people were asking me, David, what is it? You've been a successful athletic coordinator. You've been a successful teacher, teacher of the year finalist at all these different schools, teacher of the year. You're now, you were an assistant principal of the year for Texas, and you're principal of the year. Like, what is it? So I did some reflection, and this is what I came up with. An elite culture, first of all, elite, I really went to that whole premise that, if I'm going to put my time and attention to something, I want it to be the absolute best I can.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted it to be the best. So elite. And that's where I was thinking from that concept. And I discovered, you know what? We've got to have some high expectations. And I really believe that's a thing that might be lacking these days. And that is, we are in this profession for a reason. Let's be real here. We do have to produce some academic results. And sometimes when I say that, people they give me looks like, wait a minute, Dave, we're supposed to be talking about only relationships. It's relationships. And I'm like, yes, that is so true. It is so true. But we're also in the same buildings for a reason, to advance our kids academically, to give them an opportunity in the future. And that was true in sports. It was true as an athletic coordinator. It was true everywhere I'd been where we have received some accolades and some successes. We had some standards. And that's what I would say define as pillar one of these two pillars of an elite foundation. So we had high expectations. Like, hey, we're going to get this job done, and we're going to pay attention to detail. That's number one. And then pillar number two is that relational side. As we know, that's the foundation of everything, right? My friends at Character Strong, they say it is the plate of the work. What's on the plate? It is the plate, the foundational relationships. So that's that second pillar that we talk about. And then it's the merger of the two. And this is the unique concept that I truly see that's the missing link out there. We're usually either really, really, really good at the academic side of things, or we really know our best practices, how to do this instruction and the teach and the technicalities of it really, really well, or we're very, very good relationally. I can build relationships all day long, but some of it that's right. So now it's the merger. It's that marriage of the two that I've seen it to be that creates that success at another level. And hence the foundations of an elite culture. And that's what those two are about. And I'm just really, really grateful because there's individuals. So I'm partnered up with John Gordon, and we most of us, I'm sure, know John Gordon. He's 17 time bestseller, The Energy Bus. He's the number 3 leadership speaker in the world. And he believed in the work so much because, again, the positivity and the relational side of it. So I was very blessed to have him endorse the book as well. And all that to say that these two pillars and they're so critical. And I know I've been talking a lot right here, but that's just a really touch and a taste, Mighty, of the book. And of course, I go into teacher burnout, how to prevent that. Education Week and some universities, they had featured my work and our team collectively as a school as to what we were doing to really retain the very high level talent in teachers. And so that is in the book. So, teacher retention, how to avoid burnout, how to hire for your culture's core values, and so much more in there. But that's a little bit just to kind of touch the surface there.
Awesome. Hey, David, before I get into you right now, and let's do a deep dive into the first pillar right there. Greetings and saludos, jefe. Principal Café in the house in the airport. Thank you for being here. Fantastic Four in the house. Also, Dot sending love to safe travels for Principal Capella. Hey, David. Real quick, I agree 1,000%, and I think Mari and I, in regards to, because we our work are EB students,
Mhm.
and so those of you in Wisconsin, those of you in Michigan, EB means emergent bilingual. That's the new term. Some of you still call it LEP. Some of you still call it EB bilinguals. It's the new term is emergent bilingual. And I wholeheartedly believe in what you're saying. I don't believe in mijito syndrome. Don't give me don't give me mijito syndrome. I don't. Don't put my kids in sped. Don't dumb down stuff for them.
Mhm.
There's a difference between language acquisition and being an academic. Two
Right.
different things. And so it's about setting that high standard. And part of that high standard when we deal with SPED, EB kids is that the teacher is at the high standard to provide high quality caliber instruction to our kids. All means all. So when you set that high standard, let's go deep into that,
Yeah.
David. I agree 1,000% with what you said. Sí se puede. Sí se puede, señor. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. As long as we all believe that they can
Mhm,
achieve.
mhm,
So talk to us,
mhm.
David. Talk to us about a high standard.
Yeah. So, like anything else in life, I truly believe that we need to meet everyone where they're at. Sometimes a high standard for one kid looks different for another kid. In my opinion, if a student is, I'm just going to throw something randomly out there. If a student is a sixth grader reading at a third grade level, um, do I believe it's best practice to be teaching them seventh, eighth grade standards? Not necessarily. I think it's meeting them where at so that they can grow, so
Right.
that they can show an academics year's worth of growth. At least that's always the goal. So I truly believe that does change based on scenarios and situations and individuals, and of course where the kids are coming from. I mentioned, being raised or living on the streets. I was being homeless my fifth grade year. People come with some baggage, and sometimes you do need to meet them where they're at. And Josh, and I'm not pushing back on you. I'm agreeing with you, but I want you to hear me say also that the Mejito syndrome, at times I needed that while being pushed while having the high standards, and people saying, all right, Davey, I know you can do this. Kind of thinking of my third grade teacher, Mr. Conrad. He saw something in me, and he gave me that little Mejito syndrome. He knew that I would be riding on a bus, the last bus after school every single day, so that I can participate in his chess club along with a bunch of other kids. That was his passion. And there was only one bus after school in elementary, and I had to ride that if I wanted to stay behind and be in this environment that he created, a very positive environment, while pushing me at the same time. He gave me, he showed me the respect and love, and he knew my background a little bit as to where I was coming from. So he gave me that love and that compassion, that kindness, that emotional, but the emotional connection. However, he pushed me also. It ended up being, pretty decent chess player because of it. We ended up winning the chess competition for the whole school that they ended up having, like this whole school competition. So all that because a teacher believed in me. So yeah, Josh, I believe we need to meet where our kids where they're at, push them to those high standards, but also meeting them where they're at emotionally, and also getting to know them and where they're coming from, so that we can best connect with them and serve them. And Josh, that's the and Mari, that's the angle that we took where I was most recently a principal, the last 8 years. And here's a cool thing. It was post-COVID, sitting principal. COVID happened. We were in the thick of it. We came back, and you all remember the gaps out the years. We made sure that we connected with every single student. So I actually have some analytics that I'd love to share with you guys sometimes, going back to a data wall and featured in Education Week and all this other stuff. But I mentioned all that to tell you that because we try to connect where the kid was at and push them while meeting their emotional needs, and we were able to have 100% academic growth. 100%. That means every single student that was walking our halls had at least 1 year's worth of academic growth, regardless of they were poor, homeless, if they were wealthy, affluent, if they were GT, SPED, it didn't matter who they were, 100% of our kids, because we did that. We had high standards, yet we built a positive environment, and we built those relationships in order to move our kids forward. And that's what it was all about.
Wow. I mean, I think I'm just kind of reflecting as you're talking. I'm reflecting about as a principal, we're charged to hire the best teachers, right? And at the time, I had a newcomer school where I had students from 32 countries speaking 29 different languages, right? Mm-hmm. So I hired this woman who was an American, but she had taught in Burma for many years. And so this was me. Oh my God, this teacher's going to be amazing because she's been over there. And so now she's going to come and she's going to help and all of that. And you know what I found out is what Josh is talking about, the Mejito syndrome. She had this big love for these refugees, but she didn't have the high standards. So I think that's where you're coming from, right? Where you have the Mejito syndrome, but they had standards to go with it. When I tell you that this teacher, I mean, I love her to death, but you know, if you can't provide standards and high standards for my kids, when you talk about TELPAS, she had zero growth of TELPAS, none, right? Everything was flatline in her class. And it was like, why? And she was great with the kids. She just never challenged them or gave them goals to reach. And so, you know, to me, it's important to, as you said, right, make sure you're absolutely right. You know, you need that Mejito, but you need to have somebody to push you, right? Come on, we gotta keep on going, which brings me to the next pillar, my friend David, which is my passion. My passion is, yes, I, as a principal, as a former principal, high standards is always key. But I've always thought about that positive environment, because I can't get anywhere in teaching you anything if I don't have that positive culture. Yep. I kind of see it more around trauma informed, trauma sensitive, those kinds of things. I think you talk about it more of a positive experience. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about what does that look like in your book, and how is that kind of written? Just because that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So when I talk about the positive environment, I'm thinking of the actual physical. What do you feel like when you're walking into that building, that classroom, wherever, and how do you feel when you leave? That's really the angle that I take in the book, which is why I believe, especially now at the beginning of the school year, as administrators, principals, anyone that of leadership responsibility, that I believe that training the individuals that are at the front, specifically, I'm getting really deep in the weeds here, but like the individuals that meet and greet kids and also parents at the front door, they are extremely important. They're the face of what that positive environment or lack thereof looks like. I could tell you really, really quick, when I walk into a building, just like I know every single one of you can, if you're going to want to be in and out, or if you're going to want to be in there because, hey, there's something that feels pretty good about this place. Yeah. And you can feel it, you can sense it, you can hear it. I mean, all those things. And that's that culture piece that you begin to feel and see and witness, like, that's a nice individual. That's a caring individual. I feel seen. I feel like I belong here. Mm-hmm. And that goes for classrooms. It goes for the offices, the counseling room, you name it, that's applicable everywhere. So Madi, that's the angle that I take from the book, creating a positive environment. I love how you mentioned earlier, you know, Josh, the music component, right? Do we pump in some music into our PDs, or do we not? How do our professional develop? How does the first day back feel? Think about that, especially for all of our administrators that are returning. Mm-hmm. What's that feel like? What's that environment like? Is it stale? Or is it, you know what? We got some
Energized.
energy. That's right.
Yeah.
We got some energy. We want to be here. This is going to be a great year. We're going to kick this thing off. And then we're going to sustain it all year long because we're paying attention to detail to all the, having music in the halls, having music in our class and our professional developments, greeting one another with a smile. Yeah, I said it. Smile. Like, oh my gosh, like it's okay. Smile. Enjoy what you do. Yes, it's okay to have fun. You can have high standards. You can have some of the craziest environments of standard wise while we're still enjoying it.
Exactly.
Hard work can be exhilarating if you're with people that you care about.
Yeah. Hey, David, let me just push you just a little bit because I know there's some people out there, right? I know there's some folks, some teachers that are saying, "Oh my God, I got to go back to school." And guess what? Here is Bobby. Bobby's going to be in that classroom all over again because Bobby cursed me out last year, and so and I understand sometimes kids have bad days, right? And these are the kids that are never absent either, right? They always come to school. So talk to me and help. I want to keep this positive energy moving forward, right? I want teachers to have fun when they come back to school. I want to make sure that we can give them or provide them with some tips or something, because you know what? Bobby's going to turn around eventually. There's some resilience there, right? Sometimes some resistance, but we can break that bad behavior just based on how we act sometimes towards them, right? So help me maybe share with some of my teachers out there that are coming back after holiday thinking, oh, I got to go back to this child and this child is going to drive me crazy. I want them to come back energized, and I don't want them to say like, you know what, it's going to really, class is really going to he's going to mess up my class all over again. So help me talk to my teachers out there to tell, since you're talking about culture, how can we make that a positive outcome for them?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for that. So here's where my mind goes. And I'm putting my principal hat on, right? Of 8 years, building that culture, that elite culture. It first starts with a mentality, a mindset. If I'm going in thinking, oh my gosh, Bobby, I'm going to have him again, I've already lost. Let me stop right there. That tells me immediately that I got to work on my mindset. I've got to, I was always told growing up with some fantastic leaders and professionals and colleagues, they were like, hey, remember, we're dealing with kids. We're the adults. We're the professionals. They're looking to us to lead. How are we going to react to those negative situations, if you will? Are we going to be that mentor that they need? Or are we going to feed into that negativity and just spiral in a woe is me? So that's where I would immediately start. And we did a lot of culture work, a lot of mindset work when we're talking about, power of positive team, power of positive leadership, and different book studies like that, because it was a mindset. I learned really quick, Marty, that, and I know you know this, we all know this, negative people tend to find negative people and hang out with negative people. Positive people tend to find their group and their little circle there as well. It is so true, but it begins with our mindset. If we believe that, or like, oh man, I don't want to go back to work. And I hear this, let's be real. And I get it. Summer is great. I love the summertime, and we're all chilling and having a vacation, having vacation. And it's kind of hard sometimes to get back. I totally get that. But if we already go in with a defeated mindset of, oh man, I got to go back. Guess what? When you wake up, you're going to be dreading that day. Almost guaranteed, because you already set that mind to be not in a good place. Whereas, you know what? I can't wait to see Bobby again. You know why? Because here's my opportunity to be that mentor that Bobby needs. I can't wait to get him on my team, because this is great leadership 101 that I learned as well. The people that you want close to you are the Bobbies, if you will, of the world. Yes. Because if you get them on your side, on your team, guess what? Your whole world becomes better because of it, in addition to theirs and their future. So, Marty, all that to say, that's where I would begin. I would begin some mindset work and really get into the mindset of, you know what, this is going to be a great year. We're going to have a positive experience. I can't wait to see Bobby. I can't wait to teach him all these new things that I'm going to teach him. And it's going to be a fantastic year. And going in with that mindset, that's the difference. Crickets, all right, mic drop. I love it.
No, I love it. No, it was great. And you know what? That just refreshed Mr. Gordon and ASSP what he stated. You know, and I like hearing those things over and over again because it stays fresh in my dendrites. And just one more thing. Hey, jefe, mijito or mijo is a term of endearment that a mom, a grandchild gives their youngest one or one of their kids. And so we say, ven, mijito, come here. Come here. Mijito is like a special one of those, like ganas. It's a special term that really cannot translate, but it's cultural. And so when we say mijito syndrome, we're talking about don't underestimate my kid because they can have the potential. So in that term, I'm using it in a derogatory way, like don't treat my kids like they can't, like a little mijito syndrome. And so, yeah, no, and David, I thought, you know, hey man, we drink the same tea, brother. I love my kids, you know. I love my kids. I'll always promote my kids, but you and I know that there are a lot of team members out there that don't know how to deal with special needs kids, EB kids, and because they don't have the tools in their tool chest, they treat them as here, do this ditto and color it. Here, do this word search and color it, and you're gonna get a 100. Okay, because I gotta go teach the kids,
the other kids.
So I love you. I'm gonna give you a lollipop. Here's a Snickers. Here, color. And yes or no? Call me a liar, America. Call me a liar. It's still out there. It's the 21st century, and it's still out there because oh no, they just came from Afghanistan. They don't. Oh no, they were milking cows in Nicaragua. Oh no, they can't do it. Don't treat my mijos with mijito syndrome. And so that's a little elaboration there, Jefe, because he was asking that. Hey, you know, in regards to your book about experiences, the beautiful thing about being an educator is that we're all history teachers. We all tell stories. We all tell stories, and you know that's history. History has always been. We didn't have till Gutenberg, the press. We didn't have that. We always had oral stories. And you codified your experiences. So tell the audience a story that really embodies what your book is about. One of your pillars. Tell the audience de tu corazón, de lo que tú te acuerdas, que dijiste eso, por eso soy un educator. From your heart, tell the audience a story that's why you're an educator using these principles.
Yeah. So I'm gonna apologize for this in advance because I really do not like talking about myself at all. But I believe the story in the book is what it is because of my personal experiences. It's my book, right? So I actually begin the story talking about Davy, and I talk about how Davy, you know, lived a very transient life. By the time I was in 9th grade, I had been at 8 different schools.
Wow.
I had mentioned how I had walked the streets with gang infested, you know, just graffiti everywhere. My brother's good friend in middle school, he was actually killed in the same alleyway that I would walk to go to school because he was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. And my 5th grade year, fast forward to my 5th grade year, I would be standing in line with my mom to get a box of that free government cheese. And we're all old enough to remember what those look like. You guys know what I'm talking about. Just to ensure that we had some food that we could eat when we would go back to the Motel 6 later that evening. As she was trying to work as hard as she can in the factory while little Davy went to school. Fast forward to my high school year, and it's all connected with the story. There was a lot of things happening that were good for me. because I had a big brother that I would look up to, and he really influenced me in sports. So I started playing football because of him. I continue on to baseball because of him. His best friend was a student body president my freshman year. And because of that, I wanted to be just like my brother's best friend. So I wanted to be the student body president at this large comprehensive high school, 3,200 students. That was a goal of mine. But at the same time, the background that I was telling you all about, that was still consistent. See, my senior year, my parents, they actually left to go to Vegas because construction was booming, and my dad was in construction. And I was living literally by myself my senior year. Football player, student body president, everyone thought that I had it going on. And the reality was I was selling my childhood toys just so that I could eat that later that same night. You know, and I tell you all that to say the story and what talks about the book is I open up with that, but then it starts to go into the intentionality of connecting with people, because people are uniquely different. We have our own strengths and our own talents. We all have our own passion, and it's our responsibilities as educators, as anyone in this world, to tap into people's talents and strengths and to lift them up so that they can live the life that they're supposed to live. And that's building an elite culture. And when you tap into individuals and their talents and their passions, you can't deny those things. You can't deny the light that they shine because they're living the life they're supposed to be living. And that's powerful. That's powerful in itself. And that's what the book's about. It's just, attach it to education, but it's applicable in life all the way around. And so that's the story that I would tie to it, Mighty. And it's really digging into how to mentally get yourself in the right mind frame in order to build this type of culture, in order to put an emphasis on the things that we need to be talking about, the standards, and how important that the people are, because it's 100% people that makes that's why we do what we do for our generation now and for our future. So there you go.
We're in the people business. We're in the people business. That's what we do. Your story is just so powerful, and you're so passionate. I can just hear you, and just like I'm just in awe. Just the way you talk about it. I mean, it's just amazing. And you said how you can tie it back to education, and that's the world we're in, right? We're here to kind of help educate and support students and teachers and whatnot, and it all goes back to your mission, vision, core values, right? And I think that's how you start off your book, right? Do you kind of start off so let's kind of look at your book in a holistic way, and then kind of look at it from by chapter, right? You start off your book by talking about mission, vision, and core values. So what does that look like? And how do you kind of tie in your culture into that? You're talking about school-wide culture, just because I know there's a lot of principals out there trying to really figure out, like, how do I get started with this next school year? And you got to start off with your mission, your vision, and core values. So how can you provide some insight for our educators out there planning their upcoming school year?
Yeah, so I would definitely encourage everyone, keep everything simple, as simple as you possibly can. So we're going to be walking into our buildings for a reason. So let's define what that reason is. For us, where I was a principal, we were going to have very, very high academic standards. We wanted to be one of the best in the entire state and in the country. That was literally our expectation. So that was our standard. That looks different for everyone. I'm not saying that should be your vision, that should be your mission, because that's not the reality that we all live in. Because we need to meet, again, our kids where they're at, our staffs where they're at, our community where they're at, and then build from there. So defining your mission and vision, that should be unique. But I definitely say, having that standards of high academic success. So that's where I would begin with the mission and vision. The core values is, okay, what are those things that are going to be taking us through the day-to-days? What's going to be our default characteristics, our default behavior in the hallways, how we interact with one another? So the school that I was just at, we had 4 core values. Number 1, positivity. We wanted to make sure that we were in a positive environment for ourselves and for our students and for our community. So that was a core value that we were going to hang our hat on. We wanted to be collectively a team. We wanted to be one. We knew that 2 is better than 1, 3 is better than 2, and so on and so forth. So we knew that was going to help us with our vision and mission, if you will. Growth mindset. So when I came in, there were a lot of individuals that, you know what, I've been doing this way for X amount of years. I'm good. I'm not learning. I'm not growing. Leave me alone. Well, we would basically challenge that mindset in the same way. Is that what you want your kids to do? You want your kids to tell you that, hey, I'm good. Don't teach me, because the way I've been doing it, it works. Leave me alone. No. So I said, we're going to model what we're asking our kids to do. We want our kids to grow. We're going to grow, even if it's just one little nugget of information. Like this entire time we've been talking an hour now. If anyone just took literally one sentence, one nugget away, hey, but that's gold. So that was one of the core values, having a growth mindset. And then finally, we wanted to make sure that, well, I mentioned team, I mentioned positivity, and I mentioned growth mindset. So strengths was the other one. We're all uniquely different and individuals. So we tapped into Gallup strengths. So again, knowing what your core values were, and that looks different for everyone. So I talk about that in the book, mission, vision. What are our core values that we're going to hang our hat on? So
so you were talking about core values, mission, right? Let's go one layer out, right? Which is your team, right? You are the principal and you want to kind of center yourself around your team. So how do you recognize, utilize, their strengths, and how do you build and develop your team to then get this work done, right?
Yeah. So I don't mind talking about other things that when they're good or positive, sometimes people are hesitant to talk about books and people and whatnot. I'm not. I want to lift up the things that helped. And here's one thing that helped. Gallup Strengths Finder. If you've never taken that assessment, I would definitely encourage it. So our entire staff took that Gallup Strengths Finder. Is basically your top 34 strengths, and it would give you your top 5. And the thing is, you wouldn't just know your top 5. Like mine's, for instance, achiever, competition, focus, discipline, and relator. Those are my top 5. It wouldn't be just like, okay, now I know 2-3 sentences about myself. No. That Strengths Finder actually gives you an analytic breakdown of all of your strengths and how they impact one another. So you will not have the same top 5 strengths. One out of every 620,000 people don't have the same top 5 strengths collectively together.
Really?
Yeah. And on top of that, when you break down your analytics and you look at your descriptions, you can actually see in yourself how you are uniquely different and how you contribute to the team. So we use strengths and that Gallup Strengths Finder to help us. Every single meeting that we had, whether it was a leadership team or a department chair team, we actually had our strengths listed and shown right there in front, so that we would know, hey, okay, I know that this individual is extremely relational. They're very high empathy. They need connectivity. That's a big one. So we knew that I knew now when I'm approaching this individual that they are coming from that location in that place. This person over here is very highly competitive. I know what taps into that individual is literally competition and something that they can succeed in. Well, we learned, that's Mighty right there, same right here. So we learned every single person on our staff, what really made them tick and where they were coming from. So there were some individuals that have very high command. That's like a really strong presence. And they come out hard and passionate. And that could be like, whoa, it could be a little too much. However, the individuals that we knew that had that command presence completely changed our mindset. That's just their personality. It's their being. It's their characteristics. So we approach them with a different lens of empathy and how we
Absolutely.
interacted with one another. And that's
Hey,
what we
David,
do.
what's the name of that strength finder again?
It's Gallup Strengths Finder. It's the 2.0 version. Anyone can get it. It's cool. You get a dashboard. It gives you a dashboard and give you a breakdown of all that. A cool thing is they actually have a Gallup app, and it gives you like specific cool little updates to your own personal strengths. Like, hey, you're competitive. Make sure you're doing this today to help encourage. Yeah, you're an achiever. Make sure that you're you're creating a list and Xing out some of those things so that you feel accomplished at the end of the day. So it gives you very specific type things. So it's really cool.
So you can find it on the Apple Store or the Google App Store, whatever.
Yeah, you can find it. You can find it anywhere. Yep.
And it's Gallup, G-A-L-L-O-P, Gallup
Strengths Finder 2.0 right now is the current version. Yeah, and it's awesome because I believe that work started with Dr. Gaines back in 1980s. Really got up in the 90s. So we're talking about decades of analytics, of very specificity that it really brings that understanding and that research up to the surface. So here's a cool little thing, and I'll say one thing. We did it with our kids as well.
Really?
We found out that one grade level had over half of them actually had competition in their top strength. We were like, what? We ended up gamifying everything for that entire school, for that entire grade level.
For that grade level.
Rigor and the data and our scores drastically went up. That was just a neat little thing. So there you go. There's a little twist.
Little tidbit out there, but that's amazing. And that's just, it's exciting for me because I love when we tap into our strengths, right? And unfortunately, I didn't know about this Gallup Strength Finder. You know what I used? And this is kind of like a little strange. I used the horoscope. Okay. I would look at your sun sign to figure out like what type of person are you. I, as a principal, I remember there was a particular teacher that I could get nothing done. Didn't matter what I wanted to do. It was always no, ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna work. I've tried that. It's that naysayer, that teacher, and I didn't know what to do with that lady. But I found out that she was a Virgo, and I said, "Oh, I know what I can do with Virgos. They're very smart. They think they're perfectionists. Let's just put it that way. They're perfectionists." So I ended up saying to myself, "Oh, Miss So-and-so, I don't know how to do this." And my secretary was like, "Yes, you do." And I was like, I'm going to tell her that because she's the one who would say, "Let me show you how to do it because I know how to do it." And then guess what? It would work. It would work because it came from her, right? And so, sorry, my dogs ran out. So that's kind of how I went through it. So let's talk about real quick, because I know we're running out of time here, and we're almost ready for the ganas questions. But you know what? Before we end the show, I really want to talk about teacher burnout. You have a whole chapter about teacher burnout, and I want to make sure that all of my principals out there are really, really kind of keeping an eye on that. Right? Because we're already losing teachers left and right. And I don't want to, I want to make sure that we set them up for success. So how do we retain talent and prevent teacher burnout?
Yeah. So going back to the strengths, getting to know our people, that's extremely important. That's something that we did. And because of that helped us connect with the staff as well, just like we do with our kids, right? When we get to know them. So that's extremely important because here's the reality. Everyone has something different that motivates them. And I know a lot of us really talk about, hey, the money's not great in education or anything like that. Well, let me tell you, if you told me that when I started, I wouldn't have believed you because that was more money that I'd ever seen in my entire life becoming a teacher. So that's not true for everyone, number one. So sometimes it's the little stipend or working harder, for stipends or whatever it may be, that might be motivating. It might be simply, I just want to be connected with the individuals that are around me. And I truly believe that is important. Going back to Gallup, research shows that when you feel that you have a friend at work, you can do that hard work. It makes it that much more easier to be there and to do. So the connectivity and companionship of the professionals and the colleagues is so important, and that helps build retention when people feel connected and a part
Connected.
of the staff. Absolutely. So we build in a lot of different components, and we have some staff that are not very much like in your face go-getters. They very reserved, very quiet, very shy, and kind of want to be left alone, but they still have other passions, and finding out what those passions are. Some teachers, they want to feel seen, like, hey, we just crushed these scores right here, or check out this fantastic, this awesome lesson that we did. Just, give me a little credit, maybe words of affirmation. It goes back to the 5 love languages. We use that quite a bit. And so it's really just knowing your people. Some people just want to be praised. Some people just want to be seen. Some people just want to, hey, give me a fist bump and say thank you and good job. That right there can push people to move past some of those very, very difficult days. A small little gesture just like that matters. So anything that you can do to really invest in your people.
I kind of see juggling balls, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is so different that you just got to be able to know who to tap, who to push, and who to kind of back off of, right? So that
leadership. You got it.
Yep, I hear you. I hear you. And I think the last thing, just to kind of close my section or to kind of talk about your book, the last part you talk about is like student success and celebrating this school community. So I think sometimes we fail to do that, right? We're always kind of stuck in the weeds and doing all these other things, and we forget to celebrate the great things that are happening on our campus, right? So what do you have to say about that in your book as far as student success, teacher success, community involvement, those kinds of things?
Yeah. So celebration is a very low-hanging fruit for any leader, for any teacher, any principal, anyone. It's low-hanging fruit. And what I mean by that is when there's something that happens really, that's something good, and it can be something small, or it can be something really big. It's about putting a spotlight on that individual, on that event, to elevate them. Because what happens is multiple things. Number one, other people see that that's being lifted up and celebrated. Guess what? They want to do it so that they can be lifted up and celebrated. So it builds a little bit of momentum. It lifts the individual up. That encourages them. That empowers them. That motivates them to want to do more. It builds the momentum, and it continues going on and on. And what happens is when you do that with your school, so principals, administrators, counselors, anyone, whoever's listening, you can lift your school, your class, your kids, whatever up, and create this momentum of that's the place to be. I want to be at that place. Look at that accolade. Look at that success. Look at that lesson. Check out that lab. Check out that theater classroom. Check out that band hall. People want to be a part of the great things happening. And when people don't know that it exists, how do they know to be a part of it? And what happens with that too, and here's a part of our success that we had at the school that I was most recently at. I had very high caliber individuals and professionals wanting to be at the school because of how we spotlighted the great things that they wanted to be at our campus. So talk about recruitment. We have a free recruitment tool right here in our hands. And you're right, we don't utilize it. So yeah, I definitely talk about that in here as well. Awesome. Low-hanging fruit, and it's free.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And I know you check out Josh's Thursdays with the kids and all of the social media that he does. Because guess what? I'm watching, right? And if I'm watching, I know lots of other people are watching. And so you're absolutely right. It's celebrations, and we don't do that enough. I can't tell you. I was working with the principal not too long ago, and I asked him, like, how do you celebrate success around here? And he says, oh, my counselors give out candy every now and then. It's like, oh, my God. Like, you have to celebrate more than that. It's just more about, you can't just give out candy all the time, right? You got to be able to celebrate all the. I told somebody the other day, they were telling me about a little boy who's always in trouble. He's always in trouble, and we can never celebrate him because he never does enough to celebrate. And I was like, can you celebrate that he had less referrals this month or less referrals this week? And they're like, well, he he'll never taste success if you don't give him something to be successful about, right?
Right.
And so so then we're going to try that this year with that student, and so I'm going to kind of watch it out. But you have to, right? You have to do those little things. Josh, we're ready for the Ganas questions.
Hey, David.
Yes, sir.
Wow, qué bárbaro, qué bárbaro.
Yeah, my throat's going. I'm like,
love it, bro.
I'm down in this like my 6th bottle of water. I love it.
I see you.
Good.
I see you. Hey, Mr. Principal of the Year, can you please show the audience some awesome shirt that you're wearing right now?
Oh man, yeah. Rep this all day long, right there.
No. I don't even have a shirt like that, Josh. Pues qué onda?
Wait, you gotta. Where's that gun? Show that gun. What's there on the gun, man?
Ganas, hombre.
I got you. They just came in. They came in right before I left to NASSP.
I got you, Doc. Big Josh, you better get me mine in large. I want it in large.
David, was I not walking around with a Walmart bag at NASSP? A Walmart bag. Que naco. But I couldn't find it.
It's a hot commodity too. I had it in my hand, and the national principal of the year, she was like, "How do I get me one of those?" I was like, "Well, get back on Josh's podcast with him and Mighty right there." Yeah, man, exactly. It was a hot commodity. No, I'm absolutely love repping it, and I'm proud to wear it, my friend.
Thank you, hermano. And just on the very back, we've got the Fantastic Four logo, other the hashtag also, because you know what? It's a group effort. It's about ensuring that we all are on the same journey, which is student success. El profe, hola, profe. Ya te veo, Rod Laws. Welcome to the show. Just check out the front part because it's been awesome. And as you all know, we finished the show with the Ganas question. Ganas. Acuérdense, remember that it's a spiritual word for all Hispanics. This might be the first time you hear me say this, but ganas is what grandmas tell their daughters, who tell their kids. It's what grandpas tell their sons, that tell their kids. It's a spiritual word that when we tell it to you, we are telling you from our heart, échale ganas, mijo. And when we tell you that means that we believe in you. Creemos en ti, mijo. And so with our guests, we always want them to spend that spirituality, that concept of ganas on Monday, because some of us are back at work already. And you know what? We need that extra little, and in our language, it's ganas. So here we go. Remember, it's quick there. David, right. It's quick. Here we go. Échale ganas questions. Give advice to either a new teacher or administrator.
Administrator, let's go there. Superintendent gave me this when I first became vice principal. Support your teachers. So new administrators, new assistant principals of VSP, support your teachers. That doesn't mean they get to do whatever they want. Nope. You still show them, guide them, encourage them and whatnot, but you support them. Support them. That's what I would say there.
Got it. For sure, Dot, you're going to get one. Read a note, email, and or text from a teacher or student that inspired you. Que te dio el espíritu.
I was ready with this right here. I remember seeing the previous one. I was like, all right, I found one. Hey, coach, we are eating dinner tonight with our parents, and you came up in our conversation. Just wanted to update you on our life since the last time we talked. My brother and I both earned our bachelor's degrees for A&M engineering. My brother continued on to his master's in finance, and I'll be moving to Chicago for my first big boy job at GE Medical Equipment and Supplies. But with all of these accomplishments, none of these would have been possible if you haven't made such a significant impact in our lives. It all started when you were the first coach to actually believe in us and convinced our parents to continue playing football, a physical sport that seems brutal and dangerous on the surface level. But when you dig deeper, the sport was a stepping stone to what taught us invaluable lessons in teamwork, communication, and leadership. The skills that we have learned from you will transfer to the real world, and we are so grateful for you. Thank you so much for your guidance and impact, Coach Arencibia.
Woo!
Wow.
That's a keeper right there.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's a big Ric Flair right there. Love it. All right, David. Send some flowers to a current educator who inspires you. And why? Why are you choosing that person? How do they inspire you?
All right. So many to choose from. And she's probably not on here, but Lauren Jones. She's a band director, band director that I've had the honor of working with the last 8 years. Talk about elite culture, the highest culture. She's been a runner-up in her band for 2 years in a row in the state. She was actually one of the 3 middle schools I was asked to participate at an international conference in Chicago with 3 bands in the entire school, or entire nation at middle school. And the reason why I believe is because she has exceptionally high standards. However, she loves on those kids, and her counterpart, Joey Prescott, they love on the kids every single day and build an absolute fantastic culture. And I just love everything about them and what they do as band directors, and they're inspiring. So that's the flowers I would love to give there.
Give me 2 people that they should follow on social media. Any 2.
Follow on social media. How about these 2? 2 of my friends, John Gordon and Jimmy Cassis. There you go. These 2 have been instrumental in the things that have been going on in my life just recently, and they're both fantastic.
What is one song that embodies David Arencibia? One song, una nomás, una canción que dice.
Man, Josh, I can't, man. My East LA roots come out. My Dr. Dre and Snoop comes out.
You're a leader. You have to make a choice. Una, señor.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't.
Are you gonna tap out? Are you gonna tap out on me?
I'm tapping out of that one. I can't pick one. I love everything, every type of music. It depends on the mood I'm in. I mean, I'm singing worship songs in the morning and at night, and then I'm rapping Vanilla Ice on karaoke when I'm on vacation. So who knows?
Everything. All right, I don't know about that rapping Vanilla Ice, but I got you, brother. I love you. Show the people the book again. All
right. Foundations of an Elite Culture.
Amazon.
Building success with high standards in a positive environment. Endorsed by my friends John Gordon and Beth Hoff, the 2022 National Principal of the Year. Beth's awesome. Lead Like a Pirate is
Lead Like a Pirate. Where can they reach you?
Everyone can reach me at davidarencibia.com. Everything and anything that you want to find out is there. My contact information, all my socials, everything, just davidarencibia.com. And I would be honored to connect with anyone that's out there. And I would love to extend this work and everything I'm doing into your world. I'd be honored in any way. So please connect.
Thank you, David, for being here. Please hold on to the call right before we let it out. Just everybody, thank you for being here. This is not, and I believe in the grandpappy of everybody. I believe in the grandpappy of everybody of podcasts, Joe Rogan. It's not about the time. It's about the quality in every episode. So if the episode goes like Principal Cafele 2 hours or Joe Rogan like 3 hours here, because you know what? It's what I like to hear. They all say that. It's the conversation that we're sharing together. Sure, there's podcasts for 30 minutes and 25. Sure, that's fine. And they help me in the morning when I hear those podcasts. But here, the goal is to archive knowledge, archive strategies like that Gallup one about the book, your book that you bring in. It's about archiving knowledge that anyone can reach out to, because this thing known as education is forever. And we cannot keep on reinventing the wheel when it's out there. And when we have professionals, culture, EB students, on and on and on, it's at one central place that you could just reach out to, retrieve the knowledge, and make it your own. Because what do we do in education? We beg, borrow, and steal, and we make it our own. So join us for next week for the first principal roundtable of many. We already had our first superintendent roundtable. Then after that, we got Sean Kane, Fundamental 5, with his new book about coaching team members in the classroom. And after that, week 3, we've got educators that have written children's book. We have nothing but knowledge here. We have nothing but ganas here. This show's booked all the way to December because of great educators like you. So thank you for being here tonight. Everybody out there, very important. Please like and share this. Like it for the algorithm. Share it to pass on the knowledge, because we're only stronger together. Josh Tovar, David, Dr. Moreno, ready to rock and roll. We wish you the best on Monday. And you know what? Hey, everybody. Let's be kind to each other out there. Things are going crazy in our country. We need to have patience Ignore the stickers in the back of your cars. Go forward. Make sure that you always love one another, because that's what he wants from us as a people, as a community, is that we bond together under the red, white, and blue, irregardless of thought, irregardless of ideals. It's about caring for your fellow man, because that's what we do as educators. We care for our fellow man, and we need you to make sure that you show that, because as educators and as citizens of this beautiful country, we need to make sure that these times are about to get tough, that we love upon each other, we care about each other under one banner, red, white, and blue, because a lot of people love this country, we care about this country, and you're part of that role modeling. So thank you for being here tonight, David. Thank you, Dr. Moreno. We'll see you. Peace out.
Honored, guys. Thank you
Adios.
so much.